All right, we are live. Greetings, fellow traders. Let me get this tweeted out so everybody can get on. Awesome. It's another great Sunday evening with a special guest tonight. So I won't take too much time here, just kind of going through my take of the market, and then we'll be happy to introduce our guest tonight. And he'll go over his take and talk about some cool technical ideas too. So that should be pretty fun here. So let me just make sure everything is connecting. Looks good. Stream quality is good. Okay, good. So wow. So the markets are really gapping up tonight in the futures. So hit a high so far of 29.77 here this evening, so that's pretty wild. We had a big run at the end of the day on Friday, and got some follow through after hours, and then a huge jump. So I guess the market is interpreting any of the news that has happened this weekend at the G20 to be positive, and so we're looking. Depending on what the futures do throughout the night, we should be looking at a pretty big gap up tomorrow. So that should be pretty interesting. So let's take a look and see where we're at with the market's current state of the market. This monthly candle is now official in June. The weekly chart, very interesting, gave us an inside week last month with a red hammer, or however you want to look at it. It could be a hangman too, but we'll see how the price action plays at these levels. If we gap way above it, that'll leave another weekly gap. So we recall our last weekly gap here, which took a while to fill, but we'll see what type of action we see this short week with the 4th of July holiday coming up. So daily chart, we had another gap up on Friday, quickly filled that gap, and then it looks like it was really simple to get to this green bar, but we'll recall that the big movement happened right at the end of the day. So let's kind of pull into that price action there. You can see here, these are the levels from Friday that we tweet out for our private Twitter subscribers there, but you can see the price action here we were looking at throughout the day. We had a double inside 5 here, which broke to the downside, grabbed your R1, chopped around a little bit, and finally broke this quick downtrend line to go all the way up to these volumetric levels in R3, and then came down. And then we had this little bit of chop at the end, and then some end of the quarter, end of the month, and Russell rebalancing shenanigans gave a huge push up into the end of the day and kind of brings us to where we are now. So all in all, the market has been kind of grinding its way up here, got through this Andrews reaction line, worked through this resistance level, and now may very well be working its way up to this pitchfork midpoint line and up to the channel top. So we shall see how that plays out this week. So very, very interesting stuff. Well, guys, I'm really excited. Tonight we have with us Christian Fromhertz from Tribeca Trading, from the Tribeca Trade Group. He's the CEO and founder of it. He has over 15 years of experience in the financial industry. He was the director and senior ETF manager with Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and he also traded for institutional clients and provided risk markets in domestic, international, fixed income, commodity, and currency ETFs. He's also traded programs, customized indices, futures, and swaps on their Delta One trading desk. He has been a guest on Bloomberg, Benzinga, a CNBC contributor, and more. And so we're really excited to have him here tonight. So without further ado, we have Christian Fromhertz.
Hey, well, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. Especially, it's good to talk about markets when there's nothing going on, no major move in the S&P future. Just kidding. Well, we got a pretty impressive bounce up, and just like you were saying, it'll be interesting, to see how much it holds going into Monday, but. You should be able to see the screen, right? The chart that I've got up, right?
Yeah, it looks good. Looks pretty clear on this end. Yeah, I can see it through the YouTube too. So that's great. Yep, perfect.
Yeah, so I think it'll be really interesting, right, to see if we can kind of maintain this. Definitely will be a gap, and we'll see if it's one of these gap and goes, right, and it kind of attracts some buyers, because you look at the bigger picture in S&P, and we're just right on that cusp of kind of breaking out to new highs, and we've kind of stalled there once or twice, right around this 2950 level. So
right.
Yeah, it's and what's funny is you always think, or not think, but you always hear, oh, it's the summer, it's going to be quiet, there's nothing, there's not going to be much going on, and just something that I've learned in my experience is just to kind of, you got to be there. Just like Friday, right? The move on Friday was pretty incredible, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you know, my experience of trading, you always have to be present. You just never know when things are. It seems to me like whenever I go away on vacation, that's when things really get exciting because you'll
Right,
be
right.
sitting and you know a couple of days before vacation, nothing will happen, and then as soon as you leave, it's like, oh my god, everything's going nuts. But
I hear you. That was one of the things I mentioned in our newsletter this weekend. Is that this is a lot of traders are going to be on vacation this week on holiday, so they might not be there to defend certain positions, things like that. So it could send some fireworks out there. No pun intended. So.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and sometimes the low volume environment, you know, it's always funny because you see, you know, you hear different commentators and they're like, well, it's a low volume rally. It doesn't mean you have to give the profits back, right? If
That's
it's low
right.
volume, oh, geez, I got to give it back, right? And well, you know, it doesn't
Right,
work
right,
that
right,
way.
right. Exactly. That's
So
awesome.
we've got what, S&P up 80, close to 90 basis points. They were up about 1%. I think Nasdaq's the big mover, right? Up 1.4%,
Oh yeah.
or
That's going to be
close to
huge. There was
1.3.
a lot of, I mean, Apple finished red on Friday. AMD, a couple other ones were red. So that'll be interesting to see if we get a squeeze in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that had to do with the Russell rebalance. So, you know, remember, so this is something like, you know, for my institutional trading, one of the roles that I had for a little bit was to do a lot of like portfolio trades, and a lot of that comes into play when you've got these big index rebalances. And you know what that means is when they're doing the Russell rebalance, it's not only like sometimes people think, oh, well, they're going to put a couple names in there, they're going to delete a couple names, but you have to realize every name is being rebalanced. And not only just an IWM, which everybody hears Russell and they're like, oh, it's IWM. It's also it's also all of their growth and value. And there's a ton of assets that are benchmarked to these indices, both the value and the growth, large cap and small cap. So, you know, that's why if you're looking on and you look at any stock chart from Friday, you see this big volume and you're like, oh, geez, what they must be, you know, there must be some type of a breakout going on. And it's just really, you know, the rebalancing and also, you know, like names like Apple and so forth. A lot of the tech, remember, a lot of the tech has done very well this year, and they didn't seem to be the ones that were moving that much. And it just works like with any index rebalance. What they literally have to do is sell some of the winners and buy some of the losers, just to kind of get it back to the benchmark weight. And I think that's a little bit what happened, and why you see some of those tech names that were they weren't the ones that were kind of ramping into the close on Friday.
Right, right. That's amazing. Yeah. So Christian, you do a lot of stuff. You put a lot of great stuff on Twitter. And folks, if you guys don't follow him on Twitter, please do. The link to his Twitter page is going to be in the description, along with his YouTube page. He's got a lot of great videos where he does market recaps, which are fantastic. I enjoy watching those. It helps me get a good perspective, or definitely a different perspective too. So that's great. And of course, your website's going to be linked there as well. So real question, you have your chart pulled up here, and I know you talk a lot about this on your YouTube. You talk about these value areas, and I was wondering if you can get in a little more detail at that, just so some of our followers can kind of see what you're looking at when you're. Because what I really like is really interesting is we do a lot of volume profile stuff. We talk about that a lot here, but I think it's really neat how you have it in different sections, and if that even is volume profile, and maybe just
Sure.
talk a little bit more about your chart there, just so we can kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just, you know, it kind of hit home with me when, you know, when I was an institutional trader. What I really looked at was where big funds are basically where they really care about levels, right? And you would often hear, you know, a hedge fund client say, okay, you know, I'm going to start legging into a position. And if it ever gets back to this level, I would love to buy more shares. So you would kind of like monitor levels and so forth for different types of institutions, because that's basically how they trade, right? So so these levels can be really sticky. So what one of my colleagues has developed is basically using the volume profile, right? So you could see this on my screen. So, you know, we're just going to be opening up in July. So we've got a whole new value area. So what is this value area based on? It's based on all the volume at price that happened in June. And what we're basically doing is putting close to 1 standard deviation, and we're kind of giving a range, and that's known as a value area. And it's really good for kind of figuring out if you're in new discovery, which it looks like we are in new price discovery right now. So that just really tells me. And on all time frames, we use these. So if you're day trading, you can use the 5, or you can use the 1 hour, which is really good for the week. But it kind of just tells you if we're above resistance, and then with anything with trading, just making it as simple as possible. Like where would I want to kind of abandon the trade if it kind of goes back to a range, or if the stock is really range bound. I really don't want to mess with it until it starts to break out. So, what's also nice and convenient about trading systems that we have today, which you couldn't do years ago, they've gotten so much better where you can kind of just set alerts. So if you've got a watch list of names, what I typically look for is breakout moves and breakouts where it's statistically significant. And the value areas really give you a good persona into that. I mean, you could see, for example, back in June, right? We actually traveled all the way through the value area, and look at how much resistance this 2,900 level. Yeah, that's right. So how could I forget? Because I went over this over and over and over. Sometimes the levels in the S&P just get they're
it's
just
like, wow,
in your
2,900 was really that long ago. It's like it seems like a year ago. But
yeah, exactly. So 2,900 was a really big barrier. Not only was it just the psychological level of 2,900, but just on my charts, it was like kind of waiting for the paint to dry to get a close above. And then once we finally got that first close above 2,900, again, and this value area was based on what we did in May, right? So once we got there, we really started to show some momentum to it.
Sure.
Obviously kind of came back and retested a little bit, but and here we go. So what's nice is we've got a whole new level to watch for the month of July, which is going to be 2,963.
Right, absolutely. So that's going to be a key level for sure.
Yeah, and it's even better than So what I normally do on like Sunday nights and going into Monday morning is I'll look at what's known as like the 1 hour charts, because you get a value area just for that week, right? And then you can kind of tell, hey, if something is in a short term, breakout, and you could see basically S&P was range bound for mostly of last week,
right?
And then kind of got that ramp into the close on Friday. So yeah, so it's really nice to kind of check. And I think Nasdaq is a little bit different picture. Notice that Nasdaq is going to be, kind of coming up to the top of value on the 1 hour, and this one here is going to be close to that breakout level. So that one has a little bit of work to do, but in the Nasdaq futures, it's going to be 78.11. So we're right on the cusp of breaking out for Nasdaq as well.
Nice, yeah. So that's gonna be a interesting zone. So we'll see how the futures, go overnight too, because that, you never know. You never know what could happen. So
let's see what else are you focused on. I haven't even looked at oil yet, but oil's up nicely.
Yeah, there's some of our guys really like oil a lot. So that they definitely track that. So that's interesting.
Bonds are hanging in there. They're actually not down that much. They're only down 40 basis points.
Huh.
And we got gold. That'll be an interesting this week to see if it just checks back, or if it actually. So I've got my level to watch for gold, which is right around 1,400 level, so 1404.40.
Right.
And if it manages to get back above there, then I would be a buyer.
Amazing.
So yeah, so that's basically how it works, is just really defining your trading. I think it's so hard, with all the noise that's on media and just basically a lot of distractions. Like there's always something next to worry about. So if I can just dumb it down in my process and say, hey, I'll be long versus this level. If it happens to break through it, then I don't like that trade anymore. So and I'll try to adhere as much as possible to my trading plan. But I've learned over the years that if you make it as simple as possible and forget about, oh my God, you read Zero Hedge and the world's ending every day.
That's right.
So they've been, it's funny, they've been tweeting about that for years and years and years, and if you ever want to get more bearish, you just read what they've posted for a day, and you're like, oh, geez, yeah.
Oh wow, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, it helps. It definitely helps using levels. We use, I like to use the floor pivot levels intraday, just for off the 5-minute chart for for day trading. But this is great to have that kind of perspective. Especially, I like the monthly, how it breaks it down by month there. That makes it really really interesting. Really interesting.
Sure, and and what we'll find a lot of times is there will be, so that to take it. The other thing that we really have encountered is what's known as version point of controls. Like these, so these things are, so just to kind of describe what we're looking at here, with when you're in value. So when you're, I've got 3 lines on my charts, right? I've got the red, the yellow, the green. The red, just to give you a quick definition, is the top of value. The yellow is point of control. The point of control is where the most volume occurs in the previous period. Okay. And the green is the bottom of value. But you notice this purple line that we've got drawn in here, which are known as version point of controls. So they become, so just like I was saying when I was an institutional trader, you'll get levels that people will care about. And a lot of times it's kind of works like, if you're familiar with how gaps work, it's kind of a similar concept where there could be, so notice like every value area, it kind of gets filled, right, at some point. Right. Price actually will go through the value area. If it doesn't, what it will do is it will leave like a little bit of a marker there, and you could see how sticky it comes. That this works, so that you'll find these levels where price actually never revisited will actually be really sticky, and they're called version point of control. So we just hit one a couple weeks ago in bonds. I could bring this over again, but it seems to be stuck for the time being. Yeah, right in here is where we hit the last one, and you could see the price is having a difficult time getting back above for TLT. So we actually took that as, you could try to do, a little bit of a reversal trade, and then you can get bullish again bonds once price gets back above. But we tagged this one here, and we came back down, and we tagged this one here. We haven't really had much of a reversal, but maybe I'm hoping that bonds will be down a little bit more, because I did go short those about a week ago.
And that is possible though too, with the big gap up on the market. It's possible. It's possible. So that'd be nice. I'm rooting for you on that one for sure.
Thanks.
Well, that is really fascinating. So, what a different way to kind of look at the charts. Every time I see what you post out there is definitely unique. So, thank you for for sharing a lot of that with us.
Yeah, no problem. I think a lot of people, it's tough. It's a different way to look at things, and especially with the purple lines, I think people think I actually draw them myself, like afterwards. But no, it's nice to actually to talk with you and kind of just give it a little bit of a description to it. But they're really good places. What we found is they're really good places to take targets. And sometimes when you're hearing if there's option activity in name and everybody's super bullish, but you've got one of these big levels of previous volume like that's coming up in your face, it's actually a good place to kind of like take off a good portion of the trade. Now, of course, you could always let the the winner roll a little bit. But a lot of times, going right into a version point of control is usually where I want to actually exit a good portion of the trade. So it's nice to have it like once you're getting into a trade, you could say, hey, if this would be a great level for me to actually take it off.
Right.
And so they're great exit points, and and again, it just really like helps you plan things out a bit.
That's fantastic. So for do you use those as stop levels, or how do you decide like, well, this isn't really working out, or do you use the value levels, the intraday ones, to be like, okay, this is not going the way I was thinking it was going? What kind of perspective?
Yeah, exactly. So if something like if we're looking at the S&P, right, and we're up 80 basis points. And if we don't manage to like hold 29.63, now of course it's still we've got a lot of bullishness going on here, but you could definitely say, okay, I'm going to if it's not doing what I think it's going to be doing, and if it's going to be moving back into the range, yeah, I can exit my trade and just kind of move on. And then, as always, what I like to do is just put put an alert back. So if it does happen to get back above that, it's game on again.
Right. That's awesome. That makes sense. Wow, this has been really enlightening, Christian. Thank you so much for sharing this. Any other perspectives that you want to share? Because after that, sometimes we get some questions here through the YouTube. So I'll open it up to questions after that.
Sure.
So yeah. So if there's anything else you'd like to add, if there are other tools that you use or other things that help you, you can navigate the markets, those type of things. But then after that, happy to move on to get to questions. I know you're busy.
Yeah. And we could start going over some names that we think that we might be sensitive,
Sure.
for tomorrow with the trade truce. I think the only thing that I would add, what I do on a day-to-day basis is do a lot of tape reading. I'll kind of come into the day with a watch list of names that I like, technical wise, groups that I like, that I think have good upside potential to them, and then I kind of just read the tape just to see if as kind of an idea generator, and B, just to kind of spot momentum. For the option activity, which I know everybody is looking at these days and everybody loves, it's just a really, really good way to kind of take a look at, names that may not have been on, to be very objective and say, okay, we're seeing option activity in this name. Then I kind of just bring it into my system and kind of look at it in that aspect and look at it with the value areas and so forth and see how it lines up in my system. And I think that's the best that you can do when you've got option activity, because one really never knows, right?
Right.
What they're doing, what their perspective, unless you're actually, and I think that gets lost a lot. Right, when you hear somebody talk about, oh, well, they just bought option, calls in this name, and they went out to October. Well, okay, well, you don't know anything about what their portfolio looks like or
Right.
what they're doing. So you kind of have to take over and say, all right, well, let's put it in my system, and how am I going to use this, or am I not going to use it because it doesn't line up? So that's what we do on a daily basis.
That's great. Awesome. Yeah. So normally we get a few questions that come through YouTube. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put those out there. And then sometimes we get chart requests too. So I don't want to overwhelm you. We won't take too much time. But sometimes we get some folks that hey, if you could look at a chart and maybe you could kind of show what it looks like with the value areas, that would be pretty awesome too. And then anything else you want to share. So I'm just gonna kind of run through and see if we have any questions. I'll say hi to everybody, and then if anything comes up, I'll shout it out to you. Does that sound good, Christian?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Good. So cool. So Harvey, what's going on? Welcome back. Alpesh, how's it going? Sean Lee. MU is I think that's a good first chart to look at for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, Christian, if you don't mind. MU, they had huge earnings the other day. Started to run a little bit, and yeah. So yeah, if anything you could share on that would be great.
Yeah, and I was actually going right to the semis too, just to see, because I think they're going to be obviously with the trade stuff a very sensitive group, and they're good. I think they offer good risk to return potential too. So Micron is definitely one of those names, right? Had a nice gap on earnings, continuation. I think with you can see I also have moving averages on my charts in case there isn't really anything right in front of it. But I think just very simple, considering that the July value area is the price is going to be above it. I think you could use June's value area, which is right around, kind of coincides with the 200-day moving average. Also, what I would be looking for, and that level jumps out at me. So really, I think this thing has got to get above 40.67 for a long-term trade, right? For scalping and so forth, that's going to be, I can give you some short-term levels there, but 40.67 is a big level for it to get above.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Sean, hey, what's going on? Paul, yep, ES is ripping. Thanson, what's happening? What's going on? Karen, hey. Manoj, hello. Sagar, how's it going? Okay. This is great. Yeah, because Karen's asking for Lyft and Facebook, but Lyft was one of those ones that was added to the Russell, right? if I'm not
If it
mistaken.
was, I wasn't sure, but I don't have the list of adds or deletes. But certainly, let me get off the weekly chart because we don't need to see that for Lyft. But yeah, so we actually have the first value area that's available. So I was looking at this one myself, and same thing with Uber. Actually showing a little bit of promise here, and I like this versus support of 64.32. So you have a little bit of a leeway here, but yeah, let's see if this thing wants to actually get some momentum to it. Notice it's above all the short-term moving averages, which I think, especially for newer names, newer IPO names, you don't really have a lot to go on. You're really using candlesticks and you're using some moving averages. But I've got the first value area, so I like this name above 64.32. Keep it simple.
Great. Great, and then Facebook has been pretty interesting too. A lot of that crypto news, gave it a few gaps up, and then like an upgrade, and then some really interesting activity in Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook is at a really interesting level, and I started a trade on Friday, albeit a very small trade. But what I'm looking at is for this week, I'm looking to see if this can maintain 191.32. So I'm actually really excited about Facebook. I think it's nice when stocks have a new catalyst. Facebook has been kind of there's been so much negative publicity around it and sentiment that to have something new to come out that gets people excited about something that they're going to roll out, something new, even though I think it has to go in front of God knows who in terms of regulations,
right.
But I think people are still going to be pretty excited about it, and I really like what's going on here, and if it can maintain above 191.32. Notice, sometimes what I do is I look at it both on the weekly and on the daily. So 191.32 is a level on the weekly. And then if it could just get a little bit further, it just gets better. If it could just rally a little bit further on the daily chart, you've got top of value for the month of July is 194.54. Remember, when I'm on the weekly chart, that's the value area for the whole year. This is the value area for the month of July.
Right.
So above 194.54, it gets exciting.
That is interesting. That is neat. I think everybody you should definitely go back through Christian's Twitter feed and his YouTube, and obviously check him out too at on his website, which is all in the description. Because I think going back and looking at these levels and seeing how they behaved, starting to go back month by month and seeing how they handled those levels, I think it's really interesting. I love levels, so I think it's great to be able to have something visual like that to look at instead of sometimes just the waves themselves are just like, you can get kind of caught up in it, but when you have a solid level to use, I think that's great.
Yeah, you know exactly where you're going to get in and where the trade's going to fail.
Right, exactly. Andrew, what's going on? Good to see you. See, I knew you'd be back. NetFry, what's happening? Thanks, man. Thanks for showing up. All right, let's see. We got a lot of questions coming in here, so let's see. Heather, how's it going? Session. All right, so we got a few. Christian, if you don't mind, we've got Xilinx on here. I know it's another semi-type name, and then Disney is a big one, I think.
Sure. Yeah, and Xilinx is one that I had in my member video that I send out to my guys. I like how this is setting up here. So a good example, I always like to illustrate with live examples, but as long as Xilinx stays above 114.5, right, which is it's already above value for the month of June and July, which the value area is almost the exact same thing. You've got a high area volume has not been hit. So virgin point of control, right at around 130, right,
wow.
which is based on here. So what a great place to kind of look to, you could either use it for a target, or what I usually do is probably would take off about 75% of my trade right around that 130 target, and then maybe shoot for the new highs.
Right. Well, how interesting! How it looks like with earnings kind of out, later in July, it looks like maybe you could hit that before that. That would be pretty neat. So.
Sure. And also, I love how Xilinx stopped on the 200-day moving average, in terms of the
it turns down. That is true. That is great. Awesome.
What was the other one? Disney?
Yeah, Disney.
Next, Disney. So Disney is doing. So I like Disney. I will confess, I missed this. it's one of those things where you're waiting and waiting for this thing to get out of a 3-year sideways pattern.
Correct. Yeah, it has been so tough to trade during that too.
And then, I mean, the traditional gap and go with this one, and so I like it. I like when stocks get out of a range that it's been locked in for a long time. And so now it's like, okay, well, what do you do with this thing? How do you position with it? So I like what it's doing here. It's digesting, and we're going to open up right in the middle of value. So I will wait until it starts to take that next leg higher, and that's where I will be a buyer, which is going to be right around 142.
Right.
So 141.93, but 142 will get you out of value. If not, who knows? It could, oscillate back and forth inside value, but that's where I would kind of wait and wait for a little bit of confirmation before I would jump in.
Yeah, it's acting a lot like Disney again.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Nice. Session, I'm gonna skip over those. If you can, you can DM me later on a couple. I just want to make sure I get through everybody's questions first. So, but thanks for putting those out there. Perry, MarketWebs is a great tool. Awesome. Thanks, Perry Hansen. Appreciate it. We'll definitely check it out. Let's see. Session, how do you get those tools on Thinkorswim?
Yeah, so so this is an indicator that my colleague Webb Bagol has put together. And so this is something that required him to write like 1,200 lines of code. If anybody's interested in the MarketWebs, you would have to purchase it through me. It's not something that you could readily get on your charts, but the value areas are some. So you can get the value, the profile. But if you want the levels, then you would have to actually come through me to get that.
Yeah, it's a proprietary thing. That makes sense.
Exactly.
But it is a cool tool. It is a very cool tool. Sarah, what's going on? Good to see you. Michael, hey, Chris, could you show Amazon levels for this week?
Yeah, absolutely. That was something that I was looking at too. So this one, it's tough because I love to trade Amazon and I own Amazon in my long-term account, but I love to do like call spreads or sell put spreads on Amazon. Notice that the value area for this month for July is actually much larger than the last two. It's almost like engulfing it. But for this one, I would wait for a little bit of confirmation. Call it 1936 would be the level where I would really get excited about Amazon taking that next level. So here's a good example. It's like, so if Amazon chops around a little bit, I probably don't want to be in it. But if it gets above that 1936 level, I think it's game on for next level up.
Nice. Sorry, Andrew, I missed you. You had a question. Chris, do you use the 80% rule for the value area?
Yeah, great question. So, yeah, I mean that's something. So something like this for Amazon for the week. With the 80% rule is if you start the week, and I don't know if this is going to actually start the week below value on the 1 hour, but if it does, let's say it does, or if it would, the 80% rule is once the stock or index or commodity gets inside value and kind of establishes itself in there, there's an 80% chance that it will actually go all the way through from one side of the value area to the next.
Oh, wow. That's significant.
So absolutely, I use that, and I'm looking at that, and so there's a bunch of, so this is a name that had option activity last week, and pretty strong, but this is actually above value. What's the name I'm thinking of? But this is a nice looking setup too, STNG, Scorpio Tankers. Mm-hmm. The name that I'm thinking of is Summit. Summit Materials is now in value for the year. Notice it's kind of come out of that consolidation. So it's establishing itself in value for the year. So yeah, this is something that I'm looking at to possibly go 80% and possibly to 30, which is a very big move.
Oh, wow, that's huge.
But and again, you use that 15 level. If it's not going to work, right around $16 is the bottom of value, and that's where I would bail on the trade.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Oh yeah, well, Fernando, how's it going? So hey, how's it going? So yeah, I guess we can't really not talk about Russell rebalancing without looking at the IWM.
Sure. So IWM, what a crazy move, I would say, from the beginning of the week last week to where we got to on Friday. Crazy, right? I mean,
yeah, totally.
So for the weekly value area, it's I'm sorry, on the weekly chart, the yearly value area, we are right in smack in the middle of value. It's been, I'd say, this has been a very tough year, all year long for IWM to figure out what direction this thing wants to go into. Notice on the daily chart the virgin point of control being taken out and the reversal. So just very short term, and I think that this is really sideways. So who knows if it's kind of almost looks like a Netflix chart, but I think you want to wait for a little bit of confirmation, 155.27, but then you're going to deal with another level of resistance, probably up at 160. So sideways, I would say very sideways looking, but if you wanted to give it a shot, use that top of value as your support.
Nice. Perry, what's going on? AbbVie. That's a good one to take a look at there with the acquisition stuff that was happening. So AbbVie.
Yeah, so this is here's another good example. Two virgin point of controls taken out on that drop. And sometimes when these things get bunched together, now you can see there's a couple ones further down.
Ooh, look at that bounce off of that level.
But yeah, really nice bounce off of that second VPOC. And we're going to be in value for the month of July. So you definitely are going to have to fight through resistance up here, which is going to be 76.66. And your support's going to be 68.52 for the month of July. But I think tough one. And I think once there's a deal involved, it's becomes so much tougher. But that's
right. Absolutely.
That's me.
Yeah, totally. Especially pharma, with deals. Wow, that makes it really complex. Gerald, how's it going? Good to see you. Let's see, do you ever use fibs? And if so, what levels do you like?
I don't use. I don't really use them. There is a setting on here where you can kind of bring in, not necessarily fib extensions, but you can actually see so for example, once we get out of value, and there's nothing really holding us back in terms of resistance. You could actually use, we have programmed in here so again, it's kind of based a little bit off of fib, and that's kind of the most that I'll use it, but you could just put show targets on here, and you could actually, so let's see, because this might be interesting just to look at when kind of that extension would be. So notice that we've got one up here, which we're tagging right now, and then the next one would be an S&P. Would not be up until probably around 3,000.
Right.
In S&P. Sorry, I'm just having difficulty.
Yeah, it's tough. It would be interesting though to see if there was a certain Fibonacci confluence at the value areas, at the value lines. That would be kind of interesting too.
Yes, and so it's really good to kind of help you with, again, taking targets at levels once, because the value areas will only help you if there's kind of previous volume at price at levels where a stock has kind of been before. If it's starting to break out completely and it's got no history and it's above value, then yeah, you can kind of turn these on and look for levels where you can take some profits.
Absolutely. Nice. Heather, Christian, thanks for coming on. Disney, if you have time, well, that's convenient. We already reviewed that, so good stuff there. Satvik, what's happening? Can you look at Shop?
Sure. And they hit Shop with 3 downgrades in a row.
Oh man, yeah.
Which kind of helps. Like if if you ever want to get into a name, right? And
yes.
And it's just running like Shopify, and then a broker 3. I believe, I know it was 2, but I believe it was 3 brokers consecutively put downgrades, and nothing more for not because they're not going to hit a target in their earnings.
Right.
All on valuation. Everybody, it's gone up too high, so we're gonna put it down.
So we're gonna get an opportunity to get some more.
Yeah, exactly. So I love broker downgrades when they're doing stuff like that. And the stock's
when it's a clear uptrend, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's beautiful. And look at the bounce off of that value top there.
So that's a nice level, and we went over this in one of our webinars last week. But yeah, I would be watching. It looks like it's going to open up inside value. I would watch 315 for continuation to the upside.
Gotcha. Very nice. NetFry, Chris, what do you think about PEP? So it's a NetFry favorite.
Pepsi, right?
Yeah, Pepsi. Yep.
Pepsi. Yeah, so these defensives kind of came in a little bit last week. It may open up. You want to be very wary of 131.63. If you're long, you want to see this name get into value for the month of July. If not, it might set up a little bit of a short opportunity, which I don't know if I would short right now, but I would say maybe avoid if it happens to open up and stay below 131.61. Sorry, 131.63.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Yeah, Oricode. Yeah, this is a tricky trader. Yeah, definitely. Heather, oops, looks like session B. Yeah, no problem, no problem. So Chris, let me see. I got a question for. Sorry, this jumps around a little bit. Oh, sorry. This little YouTube thing gets a little. Oops. Oh, Nefra. I gotcha. Okay, cool. Session MDB. That is interesting.
Oh yeah.
I've seen that come up. Honestly, I don't think I've ever traded MDB, but I get a lot of questions about it, and I've also seen it a lot of tweets about it too. So I'd love to see your take on that.
Yeah, so this is one I know because I also have this one in our member watch list. I like this a lot. It seems like the software names, and I don't know what the software, just thinking on a higher level, the software names have been a great hiding place with the trade wars, right? Because they're not really subject to tariffs, right? Because they're software. But MDB has kind of come back all the way from this earnings move where it went nuts, and then it's come back pretty decently. So 147.91 is gonna be the bogey, and I like playing this one. Considering it's $150 stock, basically going long a call spread, something like the 150 maybe 160 call spread in here, and then of course or if you're trading stock with a stop of 147.91. But I'm looking for a bounce in this one next week or this week.
Okay, wow. Yeah, to me, just like a nice pullback right there. Potential trend line breakout. So that does look nice. Andrew, yeah, sorry, man. I caught your later. You know how YouTube skips around, so we got that 80% rule, so we're good there. Mick Lovin, can you check out TTD? That's a good one to look at.
TTD, yeah, kind of the same type of pullback. And we'll see again, brand new value area, of course, 227.50 is going to be your bogey there. And, again, what's nice with these names, again, I'll mention just, I think call spreads work really well for these stocks that are, this one's 227. So you can actually look to maybe, if it manages to kind of hang around here and holds 227.5, then I would be looking to kind of like put on a long call spread. Whereas this maybe 240 to 250, I think it was probably sets up good risk to return.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, that was a big pull. That had that crazy breakout move, like about a month ago. I mean, and then just launched. I don't even know if there was news on it. Just launched. So,
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't. Maybe it got an upgrade or something that just kind of kicked it off.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. So. Good. And then Harvey Apple, if time permits. I think that's a good one to look at too. And I think we just have a few more, Christian, and then we'll let you go. But thank you again for spending some time with us. Really.
Yeah, this is fun. I mean, this is what we love doing, is going through charts and setting up levels. And normally, when I mention these levels, what I normally do with them, and Apple's a great example. I'm looking at Apple as long as it gets above 201.05. So 201.05. And what I normally do is I'll have about 15 or 20 alerts, and like this is one that I will definitely have in place. So this way I don't have to do anything. And again, if I'm looking, because I'm mainly a swing trader, if you haven't been able to figure that out, but I will just kind of wait until it triggers, and then I will place my trade as long as I get the closing print above 201.05, and then I can figure out how I'm going to go long. Right. And then I've got that defined support.
Gotcha. Session, we'll try real quick. So we've got, let's see. So QCOM is interesting. Looks like a good one.
Yeah. Has been really nice grinding move since, I forget what brought this thing down. Was it the trade war? Is that what brought it down?
Yeah. I wasn't really messing with QCOM. I think it had to do with the 5G stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Huawei and all that is 5G and so,
All that wrapped
yeah,
up, but
yeah.
it's been grinding back. 72.62 is going to be your bogey there. Nice level to kind of trade against for support. You don't. Let me just turn on the targets for you, considering it's going to be. We're already opening up above value. We'll see if I can give you a nice level. And we'll just wait for that to adjust. Yeah, so you got a couple levels to possibly get through. But again, all good things up here. 70, right around 77.60, then another one at 80.35, and then another one at 85 to the upside. So 3 places, and you can think about taking targets at those levels, or just hope that once they do achieve them, you could use them as support.
Awesome. I've got one for AMD and NVIDIA, and then I don't know, LRNX. I don't know if I've even looked at that one before, but I guess it's a semi-name. So.
Okay, gotcha. Let me just put this back because I know my charts will look a little bit too busy.
Yeah, especially I hear you.
So what was the first one?
So we have AMD.
AMD.
Yeah.
Yeah, AMD. I'm looking at this one. You can see I've got a downward trend line drawn. Looking at a break higher of 31.37. I think what we talked about in the beginning of the hour was that these semi names just I think Russell related. They just maybe they're giving you an opportunity. I don't love the bearish engulfing, but if it manages to get above 31, call it 31.40.
Right.
It's showtime for this one, and I like it.
And then NVIDIA has been in a recent, kind of reversal move too, pushing its way up, gapped up on MU news, and just kind of kept on going.
Yeah, so the weekly chart, so this is way below value on the weekly chart, which just means bigger resistance is probably going to be at 212, but that's $50 up, which is not going to really help you here.
Gotcha.
What I would look for, yeah, this one's going to be opening up above value. Let me go back, and so you've got this up here, that's 189. That's not going to help you too much, but you've got support 155. So might as well just turn this back on for a second, and we'll see if we can give some targets up here as well.
So is that when you see that weekly way below value like that, is that something where you're just kind of like hands off, even if it moves, great, but none of my business, that type of thing?
If I happen to see something like, either I really have to like it to take something that I kind of think is a counter trend trade, because I do think NVIDIA at this point is it's below the 200-day moving average. So anything that I think is below value on the weekly chart, below the 200-day moving average, is kind of counter trend at this point. So yeah, it's going to be more of a scalp trade for me than kind of sit with it for long and see where this thing wants to get to. But you've got one just shy of the 200-day moving average at 171.68. But you're above that support of 155.
Gotcha. We had one LRNX. I'm not sure. I don't honestly.
Is it LRCX or LRNX?
Maybe LRCX, because I
is LRNX?
I don't think I've ever traded LRNX before.
Yeah, let's say
it's probably LRCX. That's probably it.
Yeah, so Lam Research is also looking like it's got potential, and as long as it stays above 186.14, you've got some upside targets to possibly get to 190, 193.5. Let's just see what this looks like on the weekly chart as well. Weekly chart, it is in value. So yeah, I would rely on that daily chart in some of those levels that I just mentioned, but I think it looks pretty good.
Nice. 3 more, if you don't mind, Christian. Then we'll get wrapped up.
Sure.
I've got V for Visa.
Yeah. So Visa.
That's for you, Session, by the way.
What's that?
Sorry, that was Session that asked that earlier. So we're just gonna wrap around to those. And
let's take off this. So just so it's not so busy. All right. So Visa, 174.53 would be your level of continuation, and it looks like it's very close to taking that out. I love Visa and MasterCard long term, but 174.53 will establish it back above value and breakout terms, which is only $1 away.
Nice. So, but real quick, so when you say value, we're talking about the value levels. We're not talking about being overvalued or anything like that.
No,
in
no, no,
terms
no,
of,
no, no,
right,
no,
right, right.
nothing like that.
Just clarifying.
In value means inside the value area.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, not fundamental, all technical.
Right. Right. Exactly. So let's see. I've got VFC. So Victor Foxtrot Charlie.
Whoops. VMs. Whoops.
Sorry,
VMs.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this
Or I
looks
think
like
VF.
it's...
I think it's an F in there. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, VFC. Got it.
Yeah. Sorry.
The VMC looks pretty good, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, Village Farms. There you go. That makes sense.
So VFC, right?
Yep, that's
VFC.
it.
Okay, so as long as it gets above 80, so 88.65 is going to be your level to kind of take out, and I would say to go long, and then I would look to take a target up at 92.
Okay, cool. And then I've got Team, TEAM. And Shirley, just I know you jumped in a little late there. We did go over IWM earlier. Christian's with us tonight, so and QCOM, so definitely check those out.
Team 134.22 would be the level for continuation for breakout.
Okay.
And that's what I would be playing for.
Nice. And then call Saul. Let's grab Tesla. We can't finish a chart night without looking at Tesla.
Of course. Oh, so this one, wow, look at the value area is pretty tight for the month of July, which I think should set up pretty nicely if it could actually get above 227.21 if you're bullish. And if you're bearish, because I know we got probably both.
Nobody wants to short Tesla here, I'm sure.
207.30 would be your level to short, but yeah, I mean, for Tesla, these are not big moves either north or south. So
right.
Call it 221 and 207, but 221 would get me interested. Let me just take a look at the weekly chart for this one. Yeah, and again, notice the version point of control taken out to the downside. We actually played this in our trading room once that version point of control was taken out. Notice it went a little bit south of that, and then it regained it, and it's trying to retrace some levels.
Okay.
But way below value, but you got a lot of wiggle room. If it does get above that level that I mentioned on the daily, you got a lot of wiggle room to get up to. Oh, look at how that coincides. All right, so 270 would be a great level to kind of target once you get above value for the month of July. Yep.
And Tesla could do it for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, last one.
Last one?
Call Saul. I don't know Tilray or EA, whichever one. I'm thinking. Let's look at Tilray.
Okay, and then we'll end with EA because I like that one too.
Okay, cool.
That one's on my radar too. Tilray. 49. Let's just see what it looks like before I give my full answer. But 49.40 looks like a pretty good level. We do have a value area for this year, which is 52.48. I would like to see it get above 52.48 ultimately. But first things first, it's got to get above 49.40 on July value area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tilray is tricky, and then EA.
So EA on this looks great on the daily. What I'm waiting for on this one, because I think it's got a lot of potential. If you shoot over to the weekly chart, and 101.92
oh yeah,
is the level. And if you just glance back at this, because I was playing this once this Apex came out, this was the last. So good example of a version point of control.
Sure.
It took this level out and has not been able to kind of reclaim it since.
Yeah, incredible.
But
it was down on earnings, and then Apex came out and just launched right to that level. Right. It was perfect.
Yeah, it was right after, right when everybody got super negative on it. But yeah, I've got bookmarked 101.92, and if it's a weekly bar, so you have to kind of wait for this week. And if it closes above, call it 102, I'm a buyer of VA. Nice.
Good stuff. Shirley, we went through a bunch, a lot of these too, and we reviewed, some good stuff. Let's look at GD. I'm sorry, Christian. GD. Yeah. I do want to see that because there's been a lot of new, with the potential war in Iran. There's been some, a lot of these, defense sector names. If you just take a look at that, and then we'll call it a night. And then this way, Shirley, we could look at one of yours.
Yeah, so GD, I have a small position. I was in options last week. I like how this sets up on multiple time frames. Notice the virgin point of control taken out here, but I'm looking for that 80% rule that we talked about. It has established itself inside value. Keep in mind weekly chart. So this is the value area for the whole year.
Right.
So it could take a little bit of time, but I like what it's doing here on the weekly chart. I think a really good setup there, and also on the daily chart. So this is above value on the daily and inside value with a big value area on the week. So I think support, I would be long versus 179
Awesome.
in GD, and I am long, and I have to think about because I was in a short-term option play, it worked, and I took it off, so I've got to reload in this name.
Gotcha. Nice. Well, good stuff, Christian. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. The perspective on the market is fantastic. Looking at these value areas is incredible. It looks like a great tool to trade. So people, if they're interested in getting these tools, they can just contact you through your website.
Yeah, through website, or they could just hit me on Twitter. It's fine either way, whichever is easiest for people. But yeah, it's a pleasure, and it's to me it's fun going through a bunch of different names and sectors and getting ready for the week. So thanks for having me on. Really enjoy it. And,
absolutely. That's the one thing about traders. You can talk to any trader, and even if you don't know each other, you can just start talking about trading or a couple stocks here and there, and before you know it, it's a long conversation. That type of thing.
Sure. So, yeah, and love to collaborate with traders who are in the thick of it. So I wish you luck on the trading week, and everybody who's here, good luck trading this week.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. And remember your risk first, and stay safe so you can stay in the game. And thank you again, Christian. Appreciate it.